Abraham Lincoln's story is one of grit, principle, and transformation, shaped by a hardscrabble upbringing and a relentless drive to learn and lead. Born on February 12, 1809, in a one-room log cabin in Hardin County, Kentucky, Lincoln grew up in poverty on the frontier. His parents, Thomas and Nancy Hanks Lincoln, were uneducated farmers, and young Abe had little formal schooling, less than a year in total. Yet he taught himself to read, devouring books like Aesop's Fables and the Bible, which honed his sharp mind and moral compass. Lincoln's early life was marked by loss and labor. His mother died when he was 9, and his father remarried Sarah Bush Johnston, who encouraged his love of learning. As a teenager, Lincoln worked as a rail splitter, farmhand, and flatboat operator, moving to Illinois in 1830. Tall, lanky, and self-conscious, he was a natural storyteller, using humor and wit to connect with people. His ambition led him to study law in his 20s, teaching himself from borrowed books. By 1836, he was a licensed attorney, practicing in Springfield, Illinois. Politically, Lincoln started as a Whig, serving 4 terms in the Illinois state legislature from 1834 to 1842. He championed infrastructure and education, but also showed early moral unease with slavery, though he initially favored gradual emancipation and colonization over abolition. In 1846, he won a seat in the U.S. House of Representatives, where his opposition to the Mexican-American War made him unpopular back home, costing him re-election. He returned to law, building a reputation as a skilled litigator. The 1850s reignited Lincoln's political fire. The Kansas-Nebraska Act of 1854, which allowed slavery's expansion, spurred him to join the new Republican Party. His debates with Stephen Douglas during the 1858 Illinois Senate race, though a loss, catapulted him to national prominence. Lincoln's clear, moral stance against slavery's spread, paired with his folksy eloquence, resonated widely. In 1860, he secured the Republican nomination for president and won with just 40% of the vote, carrying the North but alienating the South. His election sparked secession. By the time Lincoln took office on March 4, 1861, 7 states had left the Union, forming the Confederacy. Lincoln's first term was consumed by the Civil War. He viewed preserving the Union as his sacred duty, initially framing the war as a fight for national unity rather than abolition. But as the war dragged on, his moral clarity deepened. The Emancipation Proclamation in 1863 declared slaves in Confederate territories free, reframing the war as a fight for human liberty. The 13th Amendment, abolishing slavery, became his capstone achievement in 1865. Lincoln's leadership was tested relentlessly. He faced criticism from abolitionists for moving too slowly, from moderates for moving too fast, and from generals like George McClellan for meddling in military strategy. Yet, he grew into a masterful commander-in-chief, leaning on generals like Ulysses S. Grant to turn the tide. His speeches, the Gettysburg Address in 1863 and his second inaugural in 1865, distilled the war's purpose and America's moral challenge with unmatched clarity and humility. Personal tragedy shadowed him. His son Willie died in 1862, plunging Lincoln and his wife, Mary Todd, into grief. Mary's emotional instability strained their marriage, though Lincoln remained devoted. His own melancholy, a lifelong companion, gave him empathy but also fueled his resolve. Re-elected in 1864, Lincoln pushed for reconciliation as the war neared its end. On April 9, 1865, the Confederacy surrendered. 5 days later, on April 14th, Lincoln was shot by John Wilkes Booth at Ford's Theater. He died the next morning, April 15th, 1865, at 56. His death made him a martyr, cementing his legacy as the president who saved the Union and ended slavery. Abraham Lincoln's life story. Early life. Born February 12, 1809, in a log cabin in Hardin County, Kentucky. Family. Son of Thomas and Nancy Hanks Lincoln. Mother died when he was 9. Education. Self-taught, with less than a year of formal schooling. Read voraciously. Stepfamily. Stepmother Sarah Bush Johnston encouraged his learning. Work. Rail splitter, farmhand, flatboat operator. Moved to Illinois in 1830. Early career. Law. Self-studied law, licensed in 1836, practiced in Springfield, Illinois. Politics. Whig state legislator, 1834 to 1842. U.S. Congressman, 1847 to 1849. Anti-slavery stance. Opposed slavery's expansion, but initially supported gradual solutions. Rise to prominence. 1850s. Joined Republican Party. Kansas-Nebraska Act, 1854, galvanized him. Lincoln-Douglas debates. 1858 lost Senate race, but gained national fame. 1860 election. Won presidency with 40% of vote, triggering Southern secession. Presidency and Civil War. Inauguration. March 4th, 1861. 7 states had seceded, forming Confederacy. Civil War, 1861 to 1865, focused on preserving Union. Later embraced abolition. Emancipation Proclamation. 1863 freed slaves in Confederate territories. Gettysburg Address. 1863 redefined war as fight for equality and union. 13th Amendment. 1865 abolished slavery nationwide. Leadership. Navigated criticism. Relied on generals like Grant. Showed strategic growth. Personal life. Marriage. Married Mary Todd in 1842 for sons. Only one survived to adulthood. Tragedy. Son Willie's death, 1862, deeply affected Lincoln and Mary. Character. Known for humor, empathy, and melancholy. A master storyteller. Final days and legacy. Re-election. Won in 1864. Pushed for reconciliation. Assassination. Shot by John Wilkes Booth on April 14, 1865. Died April 15. Legacy. Saved the Union, abolished slavery, became an American icon.